Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the CheckboxListTile widget. The CheckboxListTile widget allows you to easily combine a checkbox with a list tile together into a single widget. You'll notice my homepage state class contains a scaffold with an app bar, and inside the body of the scaffold we're going to create a list view. And the list view is going to have a single child, which is going to be a checkbox list tile, created like so. You'll notice by the squiggle there in my IDE, that is because the value and onChange parameters are required. So what we can do is we can go on ahead and create those two parameters. Starting off with a value of true and specifying the onChanged to be a callback function that's simply empty for the time being. You'll notice how when I save that, we now have our checkbox list tile over on the application running in the Android emulator. You'll notice, however, when I click the checkbox list tile, nothing happens. And that's because the value of the checkbox list tile is hard-coded to true. And it's up to us to manage the state of the CheckboxListTile widget. The CheckboxListTile widget does not manage its own state. It's up to us to update the value in the onChanged callback function. So what we're going to do at the top of our homepage state class is create a property called value, which we will set initially to false, and we will give the checkbox list tile value this property, and you'll notice how the checkbox is now false. However, still when clicking the checkbox list tile, nothing changes, and that's because we are yet to wire up the onChanged callback function. So what we can do inside the onChanged callback, we can use the set state and we can update our property value with the value provided from the onChanged callback function. You'll notice how, by doing that, we can toggle our checkbox to be ticked and unticked, like so. You'll notice the checkbox list tile allows you to specify a number of other properties, for example, the active color and the check color, the title and the subtitle, whether or not the title and subtitle are over 3 lines, whether the list tile is dense, the secondary widget, whether or not the widget is selected, the control affinity, and whether the checkbox list tile is auto-focused. We'll take a look first of all at the active color and the check color. To demonstrate these two parameters, we'll specify an active color of green and a check color of blue. You'll notice how we now have a check mark that is blue in colour, and the background of the checkbox itself is green. Essentially, those two parameters there allow you to customize the colour of the box itself and then the colour of the check mark specifically. The other properties that we will take a look at are the title and subtitle properties. Now these are much the same as if you were creating a conventional list tile widget. We'll insert some placeholder values for the purposes of this demonstration, with a title and a subtitle like so. You'll notice how we then have the title and subtitle displayed as if they were in a conventional list tile widget. You'll notice that we also have the is3line parameter. By default, this is set to false. You'll notice there is no change. However, if we were to set this to true, it would adjust the amount of vertical padding surrounding the list tile's content. For example, if we insert a new line in the subtitle, like so, you'll notice how we retain an aesthetically pleasing amount of padding vertically and horizontally. Without the is3line parameter specified, you'll notice how we lose that vertical padding, with the list tile not quite looking as good as with the is3line parameter set to true. Reversing the checkbox list tile back to 2 lines, we'll take a look next at the dense parameter. This essentially allows you to control the density of the content inside the list tile. Dense is false by default. You'll notice no visual change there to the list tile. However, when we set dense to true, you'll notice that the font size becomes smaller, the list tile becomes more dense, essentially allowing you to fit more list tiles onto the screen by making them closer together with a smaller font size. We'll take a look next at the secondary property. The secondary property is the equivalent to the leading widget in a conventional list tile and allows you to specify a widget, generally an icon, to be placed to the left-hand side of the list tile. For example, specifying a secondary icon of the account circle icon, like so, you'll notice how we then have that account circle icon appearing on the left-hand side of the list tile, in much the same way that the leading widget works in a standard list tile widget. You'll notice there is also the selected property and the autofocus property. The selected property controls whether or not the list tile is selected. You'll notice setting selected to true, the entire list tile widget changes to the application's primary colour to highlight the fact that it is selected to the user. Likewise, the autofocus property controls whether or not the list tile should be automatically focused when it comes into view in the application. Essentially there you have the checkbox list tile widget, which allows you to conveniently create a checkbox and a list tile all in a single widget, allowing you to specify the value of the checkbox, the logic to execute when the value changes, a title and subtitle, and an optional secondary widget to display to the left of the checkbox list tile. So essentially, if you're looking to combine a checkbox and a list tile, then you'll want to use the checkbox list tile widget because it will allow you to click anywhere in the list tile to toggle that checkbox on and off. If these were two separate widgets in a row, a list tile widget and a checkbox widget separately, then you would only be able to click on the checkbox itself to toggle the checkbox on and off. Whereas using the checkbox list tile, you can tap anywhere on that list tile widget to automatically toggle the checkbox to be ticked or unticked. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for watching.